Okay, you're live.
All right, very good. I will call to order the August meeting of the Glendale Planning and Historic Preservation Commission. Looks like we have a quorum today. We're missing Randy Green and also the vacant spot from Jill Bites. But with that in mind, we have a quorum. We'll begin as always with a review and approval of the minutes of our last meeting. Members of the commission, what is your pleasure relative to those minutes?
Fantastic minutes. I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We have no old business, but we do have, at some point, David, I didn't glance at the second page of our agenda. Is the filling the position of the secretary?
It should be.
I was looking at the wrong document. I'm sorry. Next order of business is an appointment of a commission secretary. As you all know, Jill resigned, I think effective last month, middle of last month. So it falls upon us to replace that officer's position. Typically, the secretary's position is filled by the most recent appointee. Looking across the stage or looking across the screen, it looks like that might be Dan Mazum, who was a very competent secretary, if I may say so.
Thank you, Becky.
So I think we just need a simple motion, a second, and a vote on anyone who wishes to become the secretary. I suspect that this will be we could designate it even as a acting secretary until we get an appointment next month. Mayor, are you intending to appoint a new member this month, or are you going to wait till next month?
Well, the deadline for getting in applications is Monday, August 17th. So if we already have one person who has expressed interest, and hopefully we will have a couple more, and then it's a matter of getting council together to have a meeting. I make the appointment, but it's with the approval of council. So if we can do it between the 17th and the next meeting of the Planning Commission on the 31st, then we will have our new member ready to assume the rookie responsibilities of secretary by then.
Okay. All right. And there's a chance too that this appointment may not happen till a later meeting because our meetings are staggered. We might actually have 2 months, maybe 3 months of an acting secretary. Fair enough.
I would hope only 2 at most. There is no meeting in September because the August 31st meeting is the Labor Day meeting. And then the next meeting is October the 5th.
Okay. All right.
So
What's the plan?
with that said, so I would be more than honored to be the acting again until someone is appointed, and if that's the process, that's great. Or if it's longer, that's okay too.
Okay. I can't imagine it'd be longer than the beginning of next year, which is our annual meeting when we traditionally elect the officers. But appreciate your willingness to step up, Dan. Is there a motion to nominate and accept Dan as our acting secretary?
So moved.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thanks once again, Dan. You are our new acting secretary. Beginning now, no old business. Let's move on to appropriateness. The first application is that of Lynn and Rod Kreider at 420 East Sharon for a mudroom and a brick porch addition and a sunroom remodeling. I don't see the Kreiders here, but I understand Mr. Sidley will be representing their interests. Is that correct? Roger, you're on mute. I can't.
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Rod, you know how we operate. I don't think you've been in front of us since we've been doing these Zoom meetings.
No, haven't done one of these yet. Matter of fact,
yeah.
I'm kind of a novice at it, so
Huh?
I haven't got the proper decorations or anything like that yet, so.
It looks fine.
But I did get my makeup on.
Well, David Lumsden is sort of our gatekeeper. He can put up on the screen the drawings and any of the application materials. If you want to see that, Rod, now you can ask David, and then from there you can give
Well,
us your.
the drawings are on the screen right now that I'm looking at
Oh.
anyhow.
All right, I was looking at the wrong screen. Apologize for that.
We're
All right.
looking at two aspects of this. One is enclosing an existing porch that's on the side of the building, which is probably the one of most concern of you because you can see that from the street. And the other one is a mudroom addition off the rear of the building. And that's actually engaging a previous addition that was done, sometime historically. I'm not sure, probably before you had the opportunity of reviewing them, would be my guess, based on the way it looks. So on the enclosing the porch, what I was trying to do is, I'm not trying to deny the fact that it was originally a porch. I don't want to make it look like the other bump out just covering with siding. So what I was going to do is create a little bit of visual texture from what would be like the handrail line of the main porch down below. And then use windows very similarly inspired by the house windows above that.
Can we see an elevation view, David, please? Okay, thanks.
So there you're looking at the front elevation primarily. So we're keeping the existing structure. We're not changing the roof or anything like that. We're just basically changing the wrapping on that area. Right now it's enclosed with glass in a way that was probably not appropriate for the building in the first place. So.
All right. Any other questions of Mr. Sidley? Mr. Sidley, you can certainly expand.
I have
Go ahead.
one question. The hand railing, I like how you picked that detail up to pick up the porch. Is that, am I looking at that? Is that up against the wall just as a decorative thing? Or
Yeah,
is it...
in place of the siding, we would use a detail similar to the handrail.
Yeah, that looks really good. Thanks.
It's always hard to enclose a little bump sticking out of a big building.
Question, I think you were in front of us last year or some time ago with an addition on the, like a second floor addition on the rear.
The original project we had was a dormer across the back to give them more room inside. When they finally looked at the whole thing, what it took to get a new stairway up there and create the dormer and the cost associated with that, and kind of looking at their future structure, their family life, they elected to not do that particular aspect and switch to remodeling the first floor, which is more involved in their day-to-day life.
Okay, I can't see, what are the windows going to be? Are they going to match the existing windows?
Well, not the existing window in the kitchen that you see. If you look at the parts that aren't crocheted in, which is the existing house, the kitchen has a little gridded window, and the master bath up to the upper right has a little gridded window. We're not matching those. We're going to match the 2/2 double hung windows that's prevalent in the existing building.
Yeah, I can see that. Are they wood or aluminum?
They're going to be the Marvin Integrity series. They're fiberglass windows with a wood interior with simulated divided lights. They blend in very well with historic structures.
Okay, so they're going to be a color that's pre-finished, right? Or can you paint them?
It is pre-finished. You can paint them too, but we're going to just match the color of the windows on the house.
And what are they now?
I'm not actually sure. I didn't take note of that. We never talked
Okay.
about changing the window color. We always match the windows unless we have a reason not to.
Sure. Okay, well, I think it's a good looking design, very as usual.
So I have a question for you, Mr. Sidley. The front elevation, which is one on sheet 2,
Mm-hmm.
that shows the porch being covered in and shows the railing, but are there supposed to be stairs there also?
No, no, we're turning that into a room. If you look at the plan, that's becoming Mrs. Kreider's office.
Well, then on detail 3 on sheet 1, what are the stairs that are shown in elevation there?
Those are existing stairs. We haven't gotten around yet to what we're going to take out or leave. So those stairs, we'll end up taking those out as part of our project.
Okay,
But they're there now.
so detail 1 on sheet 2 would be more current than just detail
Yes.
3 on sheet 1 shows the existing stairs.
Yeah, those existing stairs would come out as
All right.
part of our project.
And then is there any concern, I'm just curious from constructability, any concern for that roof of the enclosed space being that flat?
Well, it's been that flat for a long time. We'll examine it and probably put a new roofing material on it to protect the inside a little better. But right now, it's not leaking or anything like that.
Yeah, just staying more flat like it was to match the look of a porch. I get it.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Is there any important reason to remove the existing steps? Because they're an indication that was a porch historically.
There's no compulsive reason to remove the steps except for the fact that there's no door above them.
Yeah,
But you're right, from the archaeological point of view, it might be interesting to keep them.
But then the steps would appear that they just go up to a handrail, which wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
yeah, but it would, for me, I mean, I noticed stuff like that. Then I would know, oh, that was a porch. But I don't feel strongly about it.
We want to really advertise that it was a porch. I like the fact that an archaeologist like you could dig in and figure that out, but I'm not sure I want everybody walking by to say, hey, look, they just enclosed that porch.
Okay, you could put plants on it, you know.
Or you could walk up the stairs and look in the window.
Or you could just take out the steps.
That's my opinion.
Or your building inspector could make us put a landing there because there's no landing.
Okay, just asking.
All right. Anything else, members of the commission? Is there a motion?
I move we approve the plans as submitted.
I'd second that motion.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Sidley. Let's move on to the next application, which is the request of the Village of Glendale by way of Chief Hardwick, 80 East Sharon Avenue, to replace the garage doors, remove metalwork above the doors with painted hardy panels. Mr. Sidley, I understand you're here for this one as well.
Is Mr. Hardwick here?
Yeah, Chief is there.
Okay. You
David,
might
could
want
you-
to explain the driving force behind it. There he is.
Can you hear? Can you?
Yes.
Okay, so what we're trying to do is improvement and take care of the east side of the building. The old garages that are no longer.
Yeah. Hold on just a second, Chief. Somebody's not on mute. I think Bob. perhaps-
Everybody needs to mute except Kevin.
Correct. Bob, I think you might. There we go.
Okay. All good now? So our goal is to do the improvement to the east side of the building. The old entrance to the fire station that's no longer used for that purpose. Along with this process, we would like to remove the corrugated metal that was placed above those arched windows. The suggestion we had was to use flat hardy panels and paint them to fill that spot, remove the metal and install the hardy panels. We would leave the existing windows that are there, the arched windows, and then the last part of that is to replace the doors with something more functional. We are in process of looking at really 3 or 4 different kinds of doors, whether it be a bifold, a sliding door, a single or multiple panel. And the least likely scenario would be an overhead door based on interior use behind that space now. We've got, what we're looking for is the appropriateness of what we can do and to bring this building, cleaning up that side, making it look, improving that appearance on the east side of the building.
What is the interior space used for now? Or what will you be using it for?
That's actually going to be a kitchen and dining room on the inside. Our plan would be to have doors that are functional that we can open up and expand that space out to the old apron area of the firehouse. And that'll be a project we'll discuss with you guys later on about a plaza out there with some something like the picnic tables, or not really picnic tables, but tables that are in Village Square. 2 or 3 of them, a grill. That's kind of what the main focus of that part of the project will be. We're going to install a little piece of fencing, and again, we'll bring that to you guys when we get to that stage. The first part of it, though, is this the area with the doors and above. One thing to note, on the right side, you'll see that there's a notch in that brick on the right door. Those 2 doors, the door on the left is 114 inches wide, the door on the right is 122 because of that notch. If we remove that notch, fill that with masonry product, and both those doors should be the same dimension, 114 wide and 113 inches tall. That's about it for our project.
Chief, the screen that I'm looking at least has option A depicted. Is there an option B and option C on these drawings?
No, it's just, that's the one we've got there. We had originally looked at a couple of different things and ideas and thoughts, and this is kind of where we have landed at this point.
So it looks like on that back elevator, or that side elevation there, on the photos on Google Earth at least, there are 2 round light fixtures, one on each corner, outside corner.
Yep.
Does it still exist?
Those 2 lights still exist, and those would be replaced to match the ones that are on the addition. We're trying to bring all this back in line.
Okay.
And I don't feel that those light fixtures are appropriate to the building. If you look at what we've got on the addition, we would like to match those as closely as we can.
Okay.
In the interest of full disclosure, I should let everybody know that I attended a meeting at the firehouse a few weeks ago to discuss the plans. It was I that suggested replacing the corrugated metal with hardy plank. I didn't think that brick was feasible in that situation. And I suggested that the doors should match those on the addition, and was open to having sliding doors, although in retrospect, I think that if they were going to match the ones on the addition, they should be overhead doors. And it would be my preference that that notch on the right be filled in and the doors would be equal in size.
Yeah, we've looked at the both of the bifold type as well as the sliding type that have the same grid work as what the current doors look and or appear as they do match the ones on the addition on the other side of the building. We really would like to match that as closely as we could. If we could eliminate the overhead track, it will help us out on the inside of it, whether we put ceiling fans in that area of the kitchen dining area. Potentially some lighting issues, but really it was to not, we want to highlight on the inside, that's an arch ceiling inside there where those transom windows are at. kind of a nice architectural feature that we'd like to maintain and actually make more of a better presentation than what we have now.
I would think you could easily do the bifold doors and still match the same pattern that you're trying to match on the front. My question is, are all the door sizes custom, or is there anything that's that would be less expensive? In other words, if you drop that down a little bit or narrowed it down in a little bit, would it cause a large savings in money?
In talking to the contractors of the various, we've talked with Pillow, we've talked with Marvin, and with it's called Panoramic Door out of California. Basically all of these are custom. We had the product out of California has a nice design where it's a slide and then it pivots on the end. We could actually open that whole space up, similar to a bifold, and they are less expensive than the bifolds, amazingly enough. And again, grid work was all included to match the look that we're trying to attain.
I like how this is Tom here. I'd like to make a comment. I understand eliminating the overhead tracks, so getting rid of the overhead door makes sense. I think that the bifold or the other one you just mentioned that fold out of the way, that allows you to open the entire space up for people coming and going as you're, socializing or getting into that new kitchen space, would be preferable to the sliding doors, which if I'm reading it right, if you have a sliding door, the maximum opening would only be 2/3 of each door space width-wise. Is that correct?
Yep, that's
okay.
correct.
Okay, so my preference would be, and since your bifold or that other option you mentioned, I don't know what you refer to, can be gridded to look like the front new garage doors, that would be great for me.
Okay.
Are you really talking bifold, or are you talking trifold? In other words, is it hinged at each one of those vertical members?
Yeah, but probably, I guess you would really consider it more of a trifold.
Okay.
You select one of those via service, so it would open and close. You need to do that.
I would agree that you want to be able to open the whole thing, and now I'll go on.
Agree.
That'll cut everything up.
Okay. I agree. Being able to open the entire opening up is the key for me.
I would caution you, though, you want to be able to open it partway sometimes. You don't want an all or nothing at all situation. So with the bifold or the sliding doors, you can just open one section too. And, if one or two people are there and and maybe even inclement weather, you can still have some connection to the outside. But if you make it so that they all have to open all the time, then you really have only two situations, two options.
No, the trifold, you can open any one of them just part way. You can make any of the doors an opening. So the trifold is really the best design because you can open all of it. You can open two, you can open one, you can open none.
Then I would vote for the trifold.
Yeah, it's really like a slide and a pivot design, so they're held in place. Again, very efficient doors, double pane glass, UV protection on the doors. It's a really nice product.
So when those are fully open, and they are open on the sides, I would assume, so it's clear at that center structural element. When they open to the side, how does that work with the passenger door on the front of the building there? Does that door open out, or does that door open in, swing in? And is there enough clearance there that it wouldn't hit that trifold once it's fully open?
They open.
The trifold opens out. I think it's out of the way. I think the trifold, doesn't it open and project out, the trifold?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that just a top track, or is there top and bottom track on that?
It's top and bottom.
Good.
Let me just point out, I recall when we were doing the bay doors that we did look at bifold doors. We really liked bifold doors. Bifold doors were very expensive compared to the overhead doors that we got. My understanding is the bifold doors are often considerably more expensive than the sliding doors. And I'm not sure how we're going to go, but we'd at least like the option to consider cost in making our decision.
However, I'd like to.
The overhead door makes any sense though, because it cuts off so many options for what you can do with lighting and fans and all that type of stuff. So I think the overhead door would have to be out.
I wasn't making a pitch for the overhead door. I was making a pitch for the sliding door as retaining it as an option.
And where does it, oh, so that only half could be open at a time?
That's the way it works. I think 2/3 could be open. I think, what, Chief, how many doors are there in the sliding system?
With the sliding, with a regular sliding door, it's 2/3 open. With that panoramic door, it's full. The whole space.
Well, what is the cost? What is the cost for the sliding versus the trifold?
How is this being funded?
Well,
I thought it was private.
I'd like to address that. I thought that was, I needed to make sure that everyone knew this. As a PS, we're able to have this conversation because of a very generous gift from a family in the village. We wouldn't be here talking about this if we were funding this from the village.
So can we afford the trifold?
Yep.
Then I'd make a motion to, when it comes time to go with the trifold.
I believe that the committee in charge should have an option between the trifold and the slider. They may have some reason why they like the slider better. And as far as from a visual standpoint, it's not going to matter. It's more functionality, and that's really their purview and not ours.
I mean, you speak functionality, the whole point of opening it up for a kitchen, if you had a buffet or whatever, if you had the entire width open for both openings, you could accommodate more people, better flow. I think it just makes more sense.
Oh, I agree, but I don't think that's our position. I don't think that's our place to say. I think we're talking about the design and how it looks from the outside and that type of thing. And
Okay.
they get to decide for functionality. I'm sure they're going to have a very small committee that's going to get together and decide whether they want sliders or trifold. I just think we should eliminate the overhead because it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I agree with the overhead comment. I mean, if you make the motion and put both options in, fine. If I make the motion, I would just go with the bifolds.
I have a question about the sliders. Would the sections of would the sliding sections be in the same plane as the rest of the door? Or because it should look flat, it should look like an overhead door.
Well, by definition, sliders have to overlap one another.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that would have the same look.
It's not really an appropriate look for the fire
I
door.
agree. I didn't consider that. I think you're right with the way it's going to have to be in and out from each other. I don't think that would be good.
I mean, I think the preference for the subcommittee is the trifold because it looks like a really neat design. If for some reason, as we go further with this and the manufacturer comes back and tells us we have some issues there, we may have to come back and look at different options. But I think, Chief, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we would prefer the trifold design as it really opens up the entire area.
And could I ask the chief if I remember when we looked at the demonstration of the folding doors, that there was the potential to actually fold all three so that the entire, if you wanted, what you could, and one of the doors opens, one of the doors is hinged, so it could be a person door. But it's also possible to fold back all three panels so that the entire door space is open. Am I correct on that, Chief?
Yeah, you're correct. And
Okay.
that option gave us, the nice thing is those doors, although they, albeit that they are sliding, they are on the same plane, because when you open them, you slide it, the first panel back, and it pivots out. Then the second panel slides back. They all run the same track. So when the second one, then it's, that was a nice. And then
It doesn't open it totally. You end up with probably 8 inches on each side or 10 inches on each side. That's made up of the panels. But
Yes.
I know what you mean. It gets close to the full.
And that kind of, it's all of the functionality that we're looking for with opening that space, securing out of the way if you need to open. The nice thing is once they're in the plane of the front face of the building, you can have those doors in any position. So if you took the first panel and slid it to the side and pivoted it, the other two panels are independent. You can put one a foot from the wall or a foot from the edge and a foot from the next panel to get varied ventilation through if it were inclement enough, if, perhaps rain, but you wanted to get ventilation inside, that would be it's a nice feature of that particular product.
And oh, by the way, the object of the game here was to bring the firefighters into the community more, to make them connected with the neighbors, to encourage the link with the firefighters, and to make it a gathering space, a welcoming gathering space.
So if planning gives us approval tonight, then the chief can send you the video that shows you the functionality of all these doors.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we're glad to.
Yeah.
If you did the trifolds, when they're closed, they'll simulate the garage doors on the front of on the south side, the new ones, right?
Yes.
Oh, I think that'd be great. So
and we did the preliminary estimate on the product is on the trifold type design you're describing is less than the bifold from Pella. So actually it was kind of a surprise that they were less. So I think it's a good way to go, and it covers all of the topics that we're discussing now.
So I may have missed this point, but the existing transom windows, it says to remain. So are those getting powder coated or painted any special way to match? I assume that those new doors would be red. So thinking the transom would be red also, because it looks like it's part of the whole assembly. Or what was the thought there?
TBD, I think. TBD.
Yeah.
Because if we look at the entry door at the very front of the building, you have that federal arched window that again is a transom window. It's painted red to match the door. So I'm just following in that language. So just curious for like cost estimating and everything, because if that window is to remain, to repaint it, it may just make sense to replace it with the manufacturer of the doors to make something to match. Just curious.
We can look into that. I mean, those windows need there's some repair work needs to be done, painting, scraping, all that sort of thing to those now, as is the header above the doors that needs some attention. And that's a steel beam across the front of that facing for that header.
Yeah, we still have to get the estimates for replacing the brick and doing some maintenance on the steel, as Chief was mentioning, and the concrete pad right outside the doors there. So there's more costs associated, but what we're looking from planning is to give us the go ahead on appropriateness of the design that we're showing here. Of course, we need to show the brickwork on the right hand side to put all that back into perspective.
And the nice thing is it gets rid of that corrugated metal that I think that we can make a much better appearance on the outside.
So are you ready for a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd make a motion to approve with the trifold doors as the option that it would allow for the openings to be completely open from side to side, and the rest as presented.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just that I would urge the reconstruction of the right side.
I believe they said that was part of the base scope, isn't it, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah, it's not shown on the drawing, so I'm just
okay,
emphasizing it.
Then add that to the motion, the reconstruction of the brickwork on the north side of the doors.
And I'll second that also.
Thank you.
All right. Motion as amended and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, that concludes our action items for the agenda this evening. Is there, I have nothing under other. Go ahead, Tom.
I had another item I wanted to bring up. Where would it be appropriate for me to discuss the placement of speed limit signs in the village? It's particularly the one on the north side of Greenville Avenue, just next to the town square there by the Rogan Park.
That's more of a council function or more administration type function, I assume.
Well, I think it is something you could simply drop by the office really at some point, talk to Wally about it, about what concerns you have.
Okay.
I think it is just basically a police function.
Okay.
And so that's where it would land.
Just so you know, the reason I bring it up, we walk up and down Greenville and cars fly up and down. But to be fair, when you come through the square eastbound and you turn southbound onto Greenville, in my car, my rear view mirror is actually physically in the way of seeing the speed limit sign. So I do not catch what the speed limit is on Greenville until I get about halfway down where the old crossing there at Albion used to be. So that was the only reason I brought that. I had two other safety items I wanted to ask another place. Where would I go? Is this just to you, Wally? One is there's a piece of rebar that sticks out on the sidewalk at the corner of Sharon and North Troy, about 2.5 inches in. It's just under the street pole sign. It's on the sidewalk, and it's weird. I tried pulling it out, but it won't come out. But it sticks out about 2 or 3 inches into the sidewalk. It's a trip hazard. And the second item was what was the second item? Sorry. Oh, I know, the railing there in front of the wine shop on the square. You know, I was trying to social distance one time with some people, and I leaned against the railing, and it's not bolted to the ground, and I almost fell. And I mean, literally, I barely caught myself. And I thought, well, who's liable if, you know, it's on our public sidewalk, if somebody falls, leans against the fence and falls. So I was wondering if that needs to be bolted to the ground. So those are the only other two safety items I had.
I'd love to get with you one-on-one, and we'll get a work order and we'll get those things taken care of. We can add additional or remove speed signs as well.
Okay. Well, I'll just stop by and talk to you, Wally. That's okay.
That'd be great.
All right. Thank y'all.
Yeah, just a quick reaction to the enclosure in front of the wine store. Is that intended to be permanent? It's on a village sidewalk, right? Or is it intended to be removed in you know, cold weather?
Been there for a while, right? Quite a while.
As I recall, back when we did the square remodel, they were required to put that up as a temporary fence to comply with the Ohio liquor license law.
So it's temporary.
Yes.
Do we want it bolted to the sidewalk? That's my question. So it doesn't have to be answered right now, but
You don't know. I haven't met with Tom Kerr to see what the exact problem is, but I will.
So do we have anything in our zoning or criteria of the definition of temporary? Or is that something that has to be resubmitted every so often, 30, 60, 90, 120 days? Just curious.
yeah, there should probably be something about sidewalk cafes or something.
I mean, we have stuff for temporary signage. I mean, banners, 30 days, but It's just enforcing, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just don't know if there's anything for temporary fencing or anything.
When I say temporary, I'm probably referring to while they're having a liquor license there. They're required.
All right. Anyone else under other?
I'm going to ask the chief. He stepped out to send you the video on the doors. I think you'll find him very interesting.
Okay. Was he going to play it to us this evening yet, or?
No. I just send it to your email address.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I'll look at that when we get it. Anyone else? Mayor Lofty?
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Everyone, we're adjourned. See everybody at the end of this month for our September meeting.
All right.